Last Tuesday, my water heater went out. The house is on the market. A couple of weeks ago, my truck started acting up and still isn't running right. But with no time off, I have to keep it limping along until my vacation coming up so I can diagnose it. Back in April, I came face to face with something I'd been ignoring for a long time: high blood pressure. I was told I couldn't drive for work until I got it under control. Suddenly, I was taking blood pressure medication, sleeping with a CPAP machine, changing my diet, and starting an exercise routine. The good news is that my numbers are finally starting to improve. I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm getting there. And somewhere in the middle of it all, I decided it was time to sell my house. Sometimes I wonder if I create challenges for myself just to see if I can survive them. Maybe. I'm Chris, and this is the Seventh Paradigm. I realized something while replacing my water heater. I wasn't frustrated because I had to install another appliance. I was frustrated because it felt like one more thing. One more repair, one more expense, one more problem to solve. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't tired from replacing the water heater. I was tired from carrying everything else. I've always been the person who fixes things. Maybe it comes from growing up in an old house. Maybe it was growing up in a blue-collar household. Maybe it comes from spending years working with my hands. Or maybe it's just how I'm wired. When something breaks, I don't immediately call someone. I grab my tools. I diagnose the problem. I look for parts. I watch a video if I have to. I make a trip to the hardware store, and then I fix it. My house is almost 100 years old. Over the years, I've replaced outlets, repaired walls, installed fans, rebuilt porches, patched trim, replaced plumbing, built furniture, and fixed more things than I could ever remember. I've always taken a certain amount of pride in that, because fixing things gives you a sense of control. If something is broken, you can usually do something about it. But lately, I've been learning that not every problem can be solved with a toolbox. When the water heater recently went out, I thought I'd just replace a couple of parts. Then I started pricing the repairs. Then I started pricing a new water heater. Then I called a plumber. And then I decided I'll just do it myself. And while all this was happening, I realized something else. The water heater wasn't the problem. It was just the thing that finally got my attention. Because it didn't show up by itself. It arrived carrying everything else with it. It arrived carrying the pressure of getting my house ready to sell. It arrived carrying the uncertainty of leaving a home that's been a part of my family story for generations. It arrived carrying concerns about my health. It arrived carrying worries about my future. It arrived carrying deadlines, responsibilities, and expectations. And suddenly, a broken water heater wasn't a broken water heater anymore. It was a symbol. And I think that's what accumulated stress does. Life has a way of disguising emotional exhaustion as frustration over something small. You think you're angry because the appliance broke. You think you're upset because the project isn't finished. You think you're disappointed because your open house didn't go the way you hoped. But sometimes those moments aren't the real problem. They're just a moment when all the weight you've been carrying finally becomes impossible to ignore. I've spent the last several weeks getting my house ready to put on the market. Every weekend has been another project. Paint this, repair that, replace this, finish that. And if you've ever prepared a house for sale, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You start seeing every flaw, every unfinished project, every crack in the wall, every loose board, every touch-up. It's exhausting. But I realized something else during this process. Packing is much harder than repairing. Repairing a house is physical. Packing up a house is emotional. Last episode, I wasn't just cleaning out a garage. I was saying goodbye. I've been thinking a lot about identity lately. Who am I if I don't live in this house? Who am I if I'm not constantly working on another project? Who am I when this chapter finally ends? Because sometimes we become so attached to what we do that we forget who we are. I've always been the guy who fixes things. But this season of life has introduced me to a different kind of problem. The kind you can't solve with a wrench. You can't force a buyer to fall in love with your house. You can't speed up uncertainty. You can't negotiate with grief. You can't repair the passage of time. And maybe that's why the season has felt so overwhelming. I've spent my entire life relying on my ability to solve problems. But some problems aren't meant to be solved. Some things have to be accepted. Some things have to be grieved. And some things have to be released. And maybe that's the lesson I've been learning all along. Strength isn't carrying everything by yourself. Strength isn't pretending you're fine. Strength isn't fixing one more thing. Sometimes strength is being honest enough to say you're tired. And maybe that's where the growth begins. I've spent most of my life believing when that something breaks, you fix it. But lately, I've been learning something different. Sometimes life doesn't ask us to fix anything. Sometimes it simply asks us to let go. And that's what I'm in the process of learning. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I want to give up. But my inner voice keeps telling me to stop being a little bitch and get your running shoes on. So I keep going. I think I'll be relieved once the house sells. Maybe. But if there's one thing this season has taught me, it's that relief probably isn't waiting for me on the other side of a closing date. It's waiting for me the moment I stop trying to carry everything myself. And if you're carrying more than you can handle right now, I hope this episode reminds you that you don't have to carry it alone. Let me know if this resonated with you. Please like and share. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And as always, be safe, be blessed, and go build.